Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Caleb Likes Books. Today I have another book review for you, this time for a novella by Brandon Sanderson, and that is Dawnshard, a novella from the Stormlight Archive series. This is actually kind of a unique review because the other novellas that Sanderson has written, I reviewed in my Arcanum Unbounded review, which basically was full of novellas and short stories, which I talked about all in the span of that video, whereas this is just a novella that is by itself. Some of those novellas are also available to get in a similar format to this, where they're their own book. But this is the first time where I'm talking about his novellas, and that being the central focus and only thing that I'm talking about. So kind of interesting, I guess. Yeah, this is a novella of the Stormlight Archive taking place between Book 3, Oathbringer, and Book 4, Rhythm of War. I am intending to start Rhythm of War directly next, now that I have finished this one. So obviously, since this takes place before that book, I wanted to read it first. Sanderson's novellas I have generally really enjoyed. The few in Arcanum Unbounded, which are Edge Dancer, which is also from the Stormlight Archive, Mistborn Secret History, and The Emperor's Soul. I loved all three of those. So I had high hopes and expectations for this because I loved his other novellas and I love Sanderson in general, as you guys probably know if you have been keeping up with the channel. But I was also wondering if it would hit the same way as his other work because it is a novella. It's a shorter book. This is like 300 pages, but the way that it's formatted and everything, it's really, if you were to make it a similar format to one of his usual books, it's probably more like 150 pages. So it was pretty short, all things considered. So I was wondering if it would still resonate with me the same way. But I think I did actually really enjoy this novella a lot, and I would highly recommend reading it if you're a fan of the Stormlight Archive, because I think this captures a lot of the things that I really like in that series. So to start with some positive stuff about this, first of all, the most obvious thing that I want to talk about with this book is just the presentation of the book itself, because I love this. I don't know how common it is necessarily to have a small hardcover like this, but if I could have all of my books in this format, I totally would. I love this format. It's so nice. It looks really nice. The spine looks nice. The cover, it's nice and small, like a mass market paperback, which is what I like. It's, compact and portable, and also cheaper than a big paperback or hardcover, and it also looks super nice. So I just love this format, and the cover also. The cover art I really like. So yeah, just want to point that out. If all of the books that I have, if I could live in the alternate reality where all books were made in this format, I would do that. So just want to point that out. But to talk about the book itself, this did a lot of things that I really love with Sanderson in general. Characters, plot, world building, all that stuff was all here in this novella. In this novella, you follow primarily two characters, those being Ryzen or Risen. I'm not sure exactly how her name is pronounced. I'm probably going to pronounce it Ryzen. I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to be. If I'm saying it incorrectly, please feel free to correct me in the comments, as well as the Lopin. Ryzen is a character that, as far as I'm aware, has only ever appeared in interludes in the other Stormlight Archive books, which is kind of similar to the Edge Dancer novella where it followed Lift, who also had only ever appeared in the interludes. And I really like what Sanderson is doing with these novellas and with the interludes, because a lot of these characters that are in these novellas and in the interludes are characters who are going to be big players in the series later on. And I really like that he kind of sprinkles them in a little bit in the books, and then does these lengthier stories that really gets you more involved in those characters. I think it's a really cool approach. But yeah, Risen or Ryzen, I don't know which, maybe I'm just going to flip-flop between those two pronunciations. Ryzen is a character who really has only ever appeared there, so this is her main first appearance. And then the Lopin, of course, is a member of Bridge 4, who has been there for a very long time, and is a character that I love very dearly. I think he is awesome and wonderful, and I always enjoy seeing him. He's so much fun, so I obviously really enjoyed him in this book. But I also really enjoyed Ryzen as well. It took me a little bit to get into the novella in general, but especially Ryzen's character, because she's a new character that I haven't really seen before outside of those few little bits and pieces here and there. But by the end of this, I actually really liked her. I really found her an interesting character, and the stuff that she does in this novella was really cool. So character stuff was all good. Great side characters as well. There's a handful of really nice side characters that appear in this book that I really enjoyed. And I really enjoyed everyone's interactions with each other. Sanderson's always, I think, been really good with character writing, and that is definitely still the case here. Another thing I really liked about this was the general plot setup and just the feel of this book overall. So the plot basically is that Ryzen is being sent to find where this ship went. And so it's a seafaring adventure with all these different characters who go out and they find this island, and stuff happens there. And that's basically the extent of the plot that I'm going to go into, because I don't think I could talk about anything really more without spoiling it. I really enjoyed that plot premise. It was a very interesting one when it kind of, in the beginning of the book, it was Navani who gave this command to Ryzen for her to do this. And so I saw that and I was like, that sounds really cool. It's going to be a seafaring adventure. It gave me very Tress of the Emerald Sea type vibes, of course, which I read earlier this year, which was also a very much a seafaring adventure. So it gave me a lot of those kinds of feels, which I really enjoyed. And then the actual plot of the book itself, there's some intrigue and some mystery going on, and then when the characters get to the island, there's some really interesting stuff going on there that I really enjoyed. The second half of this book, which is primarily that side of it, was amazing, and I loved it. And it was really cool. Some other good stuff here. There was some interesting world building that I really enjoyed. There was some new stuff in here that hasn't really been seen before in the Stormlight archive that I really enjoyed. Some magic stuff, some greater Cosmere world building stuff, some types of species and things like that you haven't really seen before. Lots of really cool stuff in here in terms of world building that I really enjoyed. This isn't really a spoiler, I wouldn't say, because I'm going to be extremely vague about it, but there's even some stuff going on towards the end here that even reminded me a bit of Warbreaker a little bit, which if you have read this novella, you may know what I'm talking about. But I thought that was really cool. There's lots of little connections here and there to other things going on across the Cosmere. You know, nothing super in your face about it, but a lot of stuff that was just cool to see, a lot of cool world building for both the wider Cosmere as well as this series by itself. Which I really liked. And yeah, that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on this novella. Not a huge amount to talk about here because it is just a novella, but I also don't want to get too much into things because I don't want to spoil it. I could do a spoiler section, but I don't really have a ton to say outside of what I said already. And if you have read this book already, then you probably can already infer what I'm kind of talking about, I guess. So not much else to talk about here, not even really any negatives to speak of. The only one for me, as I said earlier, is that it did take me a little bit to get really into it. I think that was mainly due to the fact that this was following a character who was mostly new. Obviously, we had seen Ryzen before, but, you know, she had only appeared, you know, a little tiny bit here and there. So it was kind of getting into a new character, learning who they are, figuring out all that stuff. So I think that probably was the reason for it. But once I started getting used to her character and started seeing where the plot was going, I was super into this book and I really enjoyed it a lot. I would say on the level that I hoped to, but perhaps a little more than I expected. As far as a rating out of 10 that I would give this book, I would give it a 9. out of 10. Really excellent, really enjoyed it. Obviously, it's a novella. It's not going to be on the same level for me as something like Stormlight Archive, or even if I were to rank this against all of Brandon Sanderson's works, it's not even probably going to rank against something like Mistborn, which, if I were to score Mistborn at this moment, I need to reread Mistborn sometime. But if I were to score it at this moment, it would score quite similarly to this novella. But I would say I would prefer Mistborn because it's, you know, it's a full-length novel, not a novella. But in terms of being a novella, in terms of what is in here, it packs a lot into its short length. It does a lot of really cool things, does a lot of things that are very interesting, lots of cool world building, some interesting plot stuff, great character stuff, all that kind of thing. Anything I think that Brandon does really well in his other books is present in this one. And I really enjoyed it a lot. So that is pretty much it for this video. So let me know in the comments if you have read Dawnshard and what you thought of it. Did you also think it was great? Did you maybe feel a little underwhelmed by it because it's such a short book? And what did you think about it and all that kind of stuff? I will be reading Rhythm of War next, so you can expect a video on that very soon as well, which I'm very, very excited about. So that is pretty much it for this video. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys next time.